Okay, Erev Tov, everybody. One thing about my house, the speed of my internet in my house is lightning speed compared to the shul. So hopefully we're going to have a lot better connectivity. Yeah, I believe so. Okay, anyway, we're in the Rambam La'am, we're on page Mem Zion at the bottom. In the Sefiria text, we're on section 15, subcategory 28, whatever. So we're discussing the order of the Masechtas in each Seder. So the last time we left off over a week ago was Seder Zroim. We did Seder Zroim. Now we're going to have the reason why we have the Masechtas in the order that they are in Seder Moed. So now in Seder Moed, they divide up the issues in the same, logical way that they did it in Seder Zroim. Now, which would be logical to be the first of all the Masechtas? V'hischil b'Maseches Shabbos. They start at Maseches Shabbos. Let me just adjust this 1 second. Okay, Shabbos. Why? It's the highest level. And it comes every 7 days. So first of all, means it's more frequent than anything. Shabbos comes every 7 days. Every other moed is much more than every 7 days. Also, in Parshas Emor, when we read about the Moedim, when it says Eila Moedi Hashem, the very first one is Shabbos. So therefore, because it happens so often, and because it's the first one mentioned in the Torah, and it also has the most Kedusha, so all those reasons make it number one. Okay, V'sider Achar Shabbos Erevin. So the next Masechta after Shabbos is Erevin, which is logical. In Shabbos, it's the concept of Shabbos. It's a large, complicated detail that is within the structure of Shabbos. So those two are pretty clear. Then comes Psachim. Why does he say so? He's got two reasons for it. Number one, Shutchilas HaMitzvahs HaNesunas Adei Moshe. First of all, it's included in the very beginning of the mitzvahs in Parshas Bo, the very first mitzvahs that Hashem gave to the Jewish people. Number one was Kiddush HaChodesh, and after that was the Korban Pesach. So it's of all the holidays, of the Psachim was the first one. The Kamo K Mitzvah Shnia L'Shabbos for Parshas Moedas. And we talk about the holidays after Shabbos is number one, Pesach is number two. So therefore, Psachim follows that. Okay, so it makes sense. We have Shabbos, Erevin, and Psachim. Okay, and which one will be logically next? We wouldn't have figured this out. V'seder Achar Kenan, what's the arrangement afterwards? Shkolim. It's Shkolim. So the question is, why would Shkolim be next? The answer is, Kamo Shenisteru B'Torah. Again, it follows the order in the Torah. Why? Well, Shabbos, Pesach is mentioned in Parshas Bo. Okay, then you have after that. In other words, Shabbos and Pesach are in Bo B'Shalach in Yisro. Now, Shkolim is in Parshas Kisisa. So in other words, if we're going from the order of the Torah, so you have Shabbos and Pesach are between the Parshas of Bo B'Shalach and Yisro. You got them covered. Now, the next one of the Masechtas by name is Shkolim, and that was the Machzor Shekel, which is Parshas Kisisa. That's the next one in the Torah. Okay, now what's the next one? V'seder Kippurim Achar Shkolim. And then the next thing we have is Kippurim, which is Maseches Yoma, comes after Shkolim. Why? Kefi Shestura, the order is Shemitzvah Shkolim b'Parshas Kisisa. Parshas Kisisa, we already saw, is in as Shkolim. The next holiday is the Kippurim b'Parshas Achrimos. We mentioned the avoda of the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur's in Parshas Achrimos,
which is the next holiday topic that comes afterwards.
And that's been bugging me for the last several months, because I wondered why we did Yom Kippur before Rosh Hashanah.
Oh,
This is why. It's how it appears in the Torah.
there you got the answer. Yoma, the avod of Yom Kippur, at least. It's not, then it's got a little more about Yom Kippur, but still, the main essence of Yom
Is the
Kippur.
avoda. And that comes first in the Chumash, in the Torah.
That's right. It comes in Parshas Achrimos.
Okay.
For the holidays. Well, Pesachim, Korban Pesach came before those. So that this order all
So it's not in the calendar chronological order.
Definitely not. Definitely
Interesting.
Not. Yeah, well, the science dvarav. So now we have to finish, our topics, and with the B'Shalosh Regalim. So now we really should get to the Shalosh Regalim, which need to be finished up. So what do we have? Makodim said Dibra al Pesachim. So already have Pesachim. So that's already been knocked out early in the game. So now what's left? So now we have what's left to really speak about in terms of Shalosh Regalim, Sukkos and Shavuos. Those are the next two. So which one makes sense to be first? Well, very simple. There's not a lot to talk about on Shavuos. Not much at all. Really, as those of you who have been learning Maseches Be'ah now, understand that Shavuos, what does Shavuos have? It doesn't really have any special mitzvahs to the holiday of Shavuos, biblically, like Pesach and Sukkot has. So all it really has is a Yom Tov. Okay, now there are unique halachas to Yom Tov as opposed to Shabbos. So therefore, we have halachas of Yom Tov, which will be V'hi Maseches Be'ah. That becomes Maseches Be'ah. But since Sukkot has a lot of mitzvahs to it, and it really is a part of the cycle of the three regalim, therefore V'hiktim Sukkah shel al Be'ah l'rov hamitzvah sheish b'Sukkos. Therefore, Sukkot comes before Be'ah because there's so many mitzvahs of Sukkot. So far we have, let's recap. We start off with Shabbos. Primary one comes the most often. Everything comes out of Shabbos. Makes a lot of sense. Erevin is a tangent of Shabbos. Makes a lot of sense. Shkolim is the next one in order of the Torah. Makes a lot of sense. Yoma is the next one because it's the next one in the Torah. Fine. Now we're moving on to the Shalosh Regalim. So Sukkot has a lot of mitzvahs. Be'ah, which is really taking up the slack for Shavuos, so to speak. So it has the holiday mitzvahs, and there comes Be'ah. Okay, so what's left? So what's left from the biblically mentioned Moadim? Ela Rosh Hashanah Bilvad. All that's left is Rosh Hashanah. V'acharei Be'ah diber al Rosh Hashanah. So once they finished Be'ah, it talks about Rosh Hashanah. And that's when we're going to finish Be'ah in Daf Yomi this coming week, I believe Friday or Shabbos or Sunday, whatever, but then over the weekend. And that's when we're going to start Rosh Hashanah. So you're right. As much as you would have thought Rosh Hashanah should come before Yoma, it comes way after Yoma because it's the last one in the order of the Torah, so to speak. Now we get a fascinating, this is like we say the first half of Moed. But there's a lot more Masechtas to go. So you're going to see we've dealt with all the biblical issues. That's why those things are first. Now, now that we've finished discussing the holidays that are biblical by nature, so now we go to the times where we must fast. Now, there's nothing of that order besides Yom Kippur is not mentioned in the 5 books of Moshe. Nothing about fast days. But where are they mentioned? They're put in the books of the prophets. These are the fasts that the Nevi'im were masakein, like Tisha B'Av, like Shivasar B'Tamas, etc. The Seder Acher Kach Inyan Tanios. So therefore, we put the aspect of Tanios, of fast days, afterwards. So we have the 4 fasts that are in Zecher L'Churban, even though in Maseches Tainis it will only deal with Tisha B'Av and Shivasar B'Tammuz, but it will really talk about the fasts that the rabbis decree when tsaros come to us, and specifically no rain. So those are all non-biblical laws, so to speak. Okay, it's more, we'll say, from the prophets. We have that because the prophets do mention, if you look into Sifrei Nevi'im, it also talks about the 4 fast days that come because of the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. And you find in the prophets that they would fast when there was no shortage of rain. Okay, so now we've taken care of that. So what comes next? The Seder Achar Tanios. Now that we've finished discussing fast days, now we go to Megillah, Maseches Megillah. Why is Maseches Megillah come next? Because Maseches Megillah happened after the destruction of the first Beis Hamikdash. So it was the latter prophets who experienced the story of the Megillah. And they were the ones that were after the ones who decided about the fast days, because the fast days already were in the Bayis Rishon and had to do with events that occurred before the events of the Purim story. The destruction of Beis Hamikdash happened about 60 odd years before the story of Purim. So therefore, the primary fast, if it doesn't rain, or surrounding the destruction of Beis Hamikdash, that was the earlier Rishonim. And Megillas Esther is the latter Nevi'im, so to speak. And therefore, that came later on in history. Okay, so now what's left to talk about? We have 2 Masechtos left. The Seder Achar Megillah, what goes after Megillah? Moed Katan. Moed Katan, which basically talks about Chol HaMoed. And since it's such a small Masechta, it throws in halachas of Avelus. So why? There is a connection between it and Purim. And what's the connection? They both have a prohibition of fasting and giving eulogies. Okay, so therefore that would be the connection. And also it's, dealing with Chol HaMoed, which is not really a biblical thing, so to speak, although we know there's 7 days of Pesach, etc., and 7 days of Sukkot. But the only real added thing to say is about the similarity to follow up on Tainus is that they don't fast and there's no eulogies. It's interesting, in the Rambam La'am, he mentions this idea of why it's called Moed Koton, as opposed to the whole Seder is called Moed. So the commentary in the Rambam La'am has a very interesting point he makes. Why is Seder Moed called Moed? Why isn't it called Moados in the plural? Because really it's talking about holidays in the plural. Let's think of the names. Zraim, the first one is seeds, plural. Now, could have called it Zera, but called seeds, because there's a lot of halachas relating to seeds. All right, we're going to have Nezikin is going to come later. Damages. It's all kinds of damages. Like we have Nushim, women. If you really think about it, Kachim and Tars, all 5 out of the 6 storim are in the plural. And it makes sense because there's a great plurality in all those Sidorim. There's a lot. It's not just one topic. Okay. So but Moed suggests one holiday. Why is it called Moadim or Moados? Very interesting. So the answer is because because Moadim in general, we might think is holidays, but we got other things like a Tanis or things like that. And therefore they use the word Moed, which means a set time versus a holiday. So therefore, that will include, if you say Moadim or Moados, you'll think it's holidays. When you say Moed, the word Moed means a set time, because I would not exactly call a Tanis a holiday. Okay, and therefore that's how he answers why it's called Moed. That's a very good trivia question. Which one of the 6 storim is not in the plural, and why? And that's the answer to that. But it's called Moed Katan because, so to speak, it's a small meeting time because it's not really Yom Tov, but it's not Chol either. So it's like a small one of the Moadim, so to speak.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
where's Tanit Esther? Is that part of Megillah?
Who?
Tanit Esther.
Yeah, that has to do with Megillah.
Okay, because it's a fast. But, okay.
Yeah, but it has nothing to do with the Beis Hamikdash. So therefore, and it's not really quote unquote a sad type of thing. Maseches Tanis is dealing all with sad situations. If it doesn't rain, Saris. That's a Tanis of Saris. This Tanis Esther is not a sad Tanis, so to speak. So that goes into Megillah. Okay, so what's left? So now that we finished talking about all the different times and the obligations, and everything that's connected to it. So what do we end off the last Masecha? Masecha's Chagiga. Now, what's Chagiga primarily talk about? It talks about Shinyana B'chovas Sholosh Regalim. It talks about the obligations we have during the 3 holidays, such as you go to Yerushalayim. What are the specific mitzvahs of Aliyah L'Regel, which are not unique to Pesach Sukkot? You will say all share the common denominator, such as you bring an Olas Re'iyah. Every man who comes to Yerushalayim has to bring an Olas Re'iyah. You have to bring a Shalmei Chagiga. Okay, there are certain holiday offerings that have to be brought, and that is the basic understanding of what is in Maseches Chagiga. So now, it's left for the end. Why was it left for the end? Should be, at least when we're finished with the Sholosh Regalim, maybe it should be after Be'ah, because by then we've knocked off all the Sholosh Regalim. And then we should talk about Chagiga to finish off the Shalosh Regalim. So the reason why we don't is Bishvil She'ena Inyan Klali. It's not an overall mitzvah for all Jews, meaning men and women. Women are exempt from Aliyah L'Regel and all the mitzvahs that are accompanied with that. And since it's only obligatory on the males, because it says Yera'eh Kol Zechurcha, all males shall be seen. So that gives us 12 Masechtas for Moed. Okay, very good. Now we move on to the Acher Kain, Chile Kamar.
Rabbi, can I just a quick
Yes.
question? Just touching on what Mark had said earlier about the fast for Esther, for Megillah. Esther, so you said it was a more of a it's not a sad fast. Is that one of the reasons? Because to me, if you look at, let's say, the events of the Holocaust, we should be tying it more. There's more in commonality with that time and what was going on with the Jewish people than with the Beit HaMikdash. But we tied in with the Beit HaMikdash. Is it because of the sadness and it's a sad time and not? As you said, it's not where the Megillah Esther is not really sad.
Right, because we know the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, sets casts the die for horrific events in Jewish history. So the Holocaust was a horrific event, was a destruction of the Jewish people. On the other hand, Purim was a big scare, but ultimately was the source of a great holiday for the Jewish people. So therefore, the Tanis Esther aspect, that was one of the tools the Jews used to create the Purim miracle and the holiday of Purim. So therefore, yes, the Holocaust is much more connected to the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash than to Tanis Esther. But either way, the Holocaust, was way later in history, would have no connection in the Talmud, so to speak. Okay, good. So now let's continue. And this is fascinating. This is all great. And it'll be a great activity. We've had lots of time. And if I was teaching, boys in grade 5 Mishnayos, And I said, okay, we're going to now discuss Seder Noshim. And if you list what the Masechtas are, you'd ask everybody what should be the first Masechta, nobody would get this answer correct. Between all the Masechtas in Seder Noshim, where we're really talking about marriage, okay, very unlikely thing comes first. Now we divide things up in the order of Noshim. And we start with Yavamas. Now, if anybody just with any knowledge would say, I don't understand, Yavamas is only after somebody gets married. So we should be talking about marriage first, then a brother dies. Now we're talking about an Asker Yibum. But that's like way down the line. It should be one of the last things we'd be talking about Nashim. We don't start, like there's so many assumptions. In other words, Yavamas is assuming we know the halachas of marriage, okay? And I guess we'd have to learn see marriage and divorce. And now you got something called Yibum, or you want to say Yibum is a second type of marriage. But you should definitely, everyone would think you should be dealing with marriage first. Why did we start with Yavamas and not with Ksuvas? Now, Ksuvas makes a lot of sense because she'iyun, the iyun haseichel noisim, and common logic would dictate to us to have Ksuvas comes first. Because the first thing you do before you get married, even before Kiddushin, is to write a Ksuba. The man is not going to be living with his woman unless you write a Ksuba. So Ksuba should have been first of everything. So why? Why? Getting married is a free will choice. Even though there's a mitzvah, but if you choose to delay it, you're allowed, and you can. And here's the critical point. And Bezdin is not empowered to force a man to get married. This is not, let's say a guy is eating treif, a Bezdin can force the man to stop. But to get married, Bezdin can't hit a guy and say, if you don't get married in the next 3 days, we're going to give you lashes. You can't do that. Can't force a guy to get married. So since you can't force him, so it's not a thing that has to be. But when a situation Yibum comes into play, he has to act on it immediately. You have no free will choice here, so to speak. They say to him, "O chalotz, either give her chalitza, or yabem, or you do Yibum." So therefore, what do we start with? So there are things that must happen. It's fit to mention them first versus things that don't have to happen. And therefore you don't mention them first. So that's the svara. Yavamas comes first for that reason. Fascinating explanation, although I could definitely hear arguments on the other side to this, but that's what the Rambam is saying. We mention the things that have to be. Okay.
This reminds me, you've did in the past the logical order of Birchot HaShachar and the logic for the order of Shemona Esrei. You went through it, so this sort of reminds me of the same kind of thing.
What was the thing before you said Shemona Esrei?
Birchot HaShachar, you also did.
Oh, Birchot HaShachar. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good. So therefore, we're starting with Yavamas. Okay. V'seder achikach ksuvas. Okay. Now ksuvas comes next because that is the logical next point. You do have to have a ksuba before you're getting married. Now we're going to veer off. So you figure, well, what way after ksuvas? You figure kiddushin should be next, right? Nothing doing. After ksuvas, nidorim. After ksuvas comes nidorim. Why? Sheparshas nidorim kula v'isbono sheyesh bo hu nidrei noshim. Because the vast majority of Maseches Nidorim deals with women's vows. That's a big part of it. K'moshe nemer, like it says, bein ish li'ishto bein av labito, between a man and his wife and a father and his son. Those are the main Nidorim that are discussed. There's others, but these are the primary ones. And there's a whole discussion. Now, when does this, and when do these changes happen? When does the power of nullifying vows switch from the father to the husband. Well, it comes at the time where the ksuva happens, when they're going to get married, when she's engaged and things like that. She had assumed gemurim, when the marriage is finished, fulfilled. She goes to the chuppah, therefore, the husband has permission to nullify her vows. Therefore, it connected nedorim to ksuvas. Okay, well, we still, that's still not a perfect answer, because, well, why couldn't we just put kiddushin in? Because doesn't the shift in the nedarim happen when there's a kiddushin? Some kind of kiddushin really would be the shift. But we'll see. The Rambam is going to discuss why kiddushin is put at the end. But definitely, nedarim does connect to ksuvas. Now, the Seder Acher Nedarim, so what comes after Nedarim? Something that has nothing to do with Nashim at all. Naziros, Maseches Nazir. Now, Nazir could be a man or a woman, but it is not a halacha that's a woman's type of unique issue. So what's Nazir doing over here?
Vows.
Yeah, exactly. They should Naziris Gam Ke Michlal Nedarim, because a Naziris is a type of a vow. Rishisha Noderes bin Nazir, and it's more than that. If a woman vows to be a Nazir, Yuchal Abala, the husband can nullify it. Lafika Seder Acher Nedarim is here. Remember, we put Nazirus with Nedarim because it is a subcategory, so to speak, of Nedarim. Okay, fine. Now, when they finish speaking about marriage, Umashi Yischayev Bishvilon Mafaras and Nedarim. And now what comes out of that is to nullify vows. So even though we haven't mentioned marriage, he's going to get to that still. But still, Hischil, Binyan HaGerushim, Shachman. So now we talk about divorce after the swim. Boin HaGerushim, that comes to divorce. The Seder Gittin Acher Naziris. So if we're Gittins after Naziris. In other words, we have Ksuba. And once you have a Ksuba, we have Nedarim. And after Nedarim, a tangent of that is what do you call it? Nazir. Okay, now we basically got the woman married, so now we'll talk about divorce, which would be the next thing. Okay, now, so hang on. V'achar gitin sota, then after gitin comes sota. That makes sense, right? It's akin to divorce, because what happens when the sota woman drinks the water, if she dies and explodes, that ends the marriage effectively. So it's another way of terminating a marriage. Shasota keshetizna, because the sota is mazana, and we know, and she admits it. Remember, then then you force a divorce. Once the woman knows that the wife was a sota, remember, if she will admit to the Kohen Gadol, at that point she doesn't drink the water anymore. But now they have to have a divorce. So therefore, sota is a type of divorce that comes. As I explained. So now we only have one left. The Seder Acher Saita Kedushin. And now after Saita comes Kedushin, and that's the last Masechta. And again, I would think that would be, logically, you would never have thought to put Yavamas first and Kedushin last. We can ask, why is it last? It should have been before Ksuvas, really. Because the truth of the matter is, the ksuba was only added later on after there were kiddushin, because the rabbis didn't want the men to treat their wives lightly. So really, how did ksubas usurp kiddushin when kiddushin should have been the number 2 on the spot? And if you're going to want to say, Vim Tomer, if you're going to say Shlo Sidro, some Kodem ksubas, you know why we didn't put ksubas? Vishil Shlo Nafrish, or it should be Yafrit. 1 second. 1 second. Yeah, the gear should be nafrid, because you might say, you know why we didn't put it in before? Because they want to make a difference between Yavamas and Ksumas. You didn't want to split up between Yavamas and Ksumas. Shinyanam Echad, which is one similar topic for who Inyan Bia, and that's the idea of intimacy. So the things should be connected. But still in all, if you would, so maybe you're going to say we didn't put it before Ksuvas because we didn't want to separate Yavamas from Ksuvas. Okay, maybe. But still, Hayakosva, Kodem Gittin, it still should have been before Gittin. If anything, Kiddushin should come before Gittin. But the last thing should be Gittin. So what do we say? The answer is, why? I'll say to Rishonah, so these come first. Kiddushin first, Gittin, then Gittin. Via Sidur, no, then order we find. So in other words, we could have started with, I understand you have to have Yavamas. Okay, and you want to have Suvas because it connects to Yavamas. Okay, fine. But so you're connecting there. But then should come Kiddushin. Or maybe you're still with Suvas, maybe you're going to have Nadorim and Nazir. Okay, it's all one thing. But still, Kiddushin should come before Gittin, which should come before Soita. So why is it not? V'tiyat Shuva, the answer is, Shistura Nasakach. Why has the order been in this way? Because we want to go in the order of the Torah. And that is the fascinating thing. And that's where your real question is. Because which is mentioned first in the Torah, divorce or marriage? Answer is, Shehitim Gerishim Kodem Nisuim. Divorce comes before marriage. Look what Hashem writes in Sefer Dvarim. It says, if a man is married, it says he's married to her, not that he got married. A man is married and he wants to divorce her. Sefer Krisus, and he gives her a bill of divorce. He gives her hand. And he leaves her house. And she goes. And then it says, then she becomes another man's wife. When we took and because it says when it says she became to another man a wife, that's what we learn in the first parak of Kiddushin, as it says there. We compare going into marriage as leaving marriage. So really, it comes out that since there's a hekesh between divorce and marriage, and divorce is mentioned first, that's why the divorce comes first and marriage comes later. Okay, let me just double check if there's anything here I should. Yeah, and therefore, therefore you got to order the 7 Masechtas in that way. So now you have to ask a question, which I don't have the answer to. Why does the Torah first mention divorce before marriage?
Isn't that always like what we said before about you can force a man or you can encourage a man to give a get, but not to get married? Why does that not apply to this too?
Maybe, but not always. I mean, only if he's a bad guy. If he's not a bad guy, we can't force him to force a woman.
Right.
So that was left to be asked. But at least in the way of the Torah, when the Torah presents it and makes the hekesh of leaving to coming in, so we see that divorce is first and marriage is second. I guess the other answer is, you know what they say. It sounds like a joke, but it's really true. Hashem always brings the refuah before the makkah. Hashem brings the healing before the sickness. So Hashem had to create an option that when you're married, that you know it doesn't have to be forever. And I guess before you get married, if you know it doesn't have to be forever, so unfortunately, sometimes marriage is a big makkah. So it has to be a way to get out of the makkah. So therefore, the refuah has to come before the makkah. And in those situations, divorce would be a refuah to the makkah of marriage for some people, present company excluded.
It's funny how the Goyim say till death do us part, and they probably have much higher in divorce rates and everything else.
They've long left that one long time ago.
I don't know whether they still say it, but they don't mean it.
Okay, so let's confirm everybody's here. Are we good for for Rambam for the rest of the week, 9:40? So those who are davening Mariv have time to get to a device or whatever. It's 9:40. Sound good?
Sounds good to me. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, there's no nays, so I guess we'll go with that. Okay, 9:40 is for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Hopefully, we'll only be doing this for this week. Okay.
Okay. Take care, everyone.
Everybody,
Well,
take care. Martin, are you still there?
I'm still here.